In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a red bell pepper sitting on a plate. You will be provided with this photo reference, which will be placed in our Brightspace class under the assignment sheet. Anyway, I'll just briefly show you what's involved here by showing you the outline mode so you can see the vector paths. So some of this is actually created using gradient mesh, and also shapes that have Gaussian blurs and the draw inside mode. So let me go back here and let's get started. So let's go over to File and New, and we'll do a print size document. And actually, I probably want it to be horizontal because the image is more horizontal. Okay, and then we're going to go to File and Place, and we'll look for this image, and right here it is, and we'll place it. Oops, we wanted to place it as a template. So let me go and place again, and click that, and then click Template. There we go. All right, so we've placed it as a template. Now, I'm going to go and place it again, like we've done our other files here in the past with trying to pick color off, and we're just going to place it. No link, no template. We don't need to check any of these boxes down here. Okay, and we'll just click over to here somewhere off to the side so we can actually get to it later. Okay, I'm going to lock this layer, and then I'm going to make a new layer. And as always, I like to complain about Adobe and the fact that they always like this pale green that's just so hard to see sometimes. I'll just pick something maybe a dark blue for the moment, and we may have to change that. So anyway, the way I got started with this was I was looking at this plate, and this is a photograph. This is one of my own photographs. I took this picture here, and when I was looking at it, I thought, oh, that's kind of like a radial gradient. I could probably do something with a radial gradient. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to use the ellipse tool, okay, and we'll distort it afterwards. But what I'm going to do is we're going to go to our gradient palette, and I like to work with my gradient palette in conjunction with the color palette so that those both are up together. And we'll put a gradient in it. We'll put a radial gradient in it, okay? And so the first color, actually, we can click on the white and get the eyedropper, and then click on this plate over here. So we'll get this color, okay? We'll drag that over so far. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and get the black slider and use the eyedropper, and we'll click off this so we get that. All right? Now we'll just slide this out a little bit more, and then we're going to have to add more sliders in here. And I think the best thing is just to use this gradient one right here to do it with. And I'm going to drag this really close in here, and then I'm going to use this eyedropper. I'm always trying to stop myself from using the I keyboard shortcut because that won't do it. We have to click on this. I'm going to click on this green here. One of the things I can do is, you see how hard edge that is? I'm pointing to the edge with this eyedropper. It's very sharp, and this one's very blurry. So I'm going to drag. We can drag that all the way over like that, or we can go up here and click on the midpoint and drag it far over, and see you get something much more like this, okay? Now, we've got this green. I'm thinking of, I'm going to put another one in here. Use my eyedropper. We'll pick up this green. Then I'll put another one in here. And I'm just clicking underneath the gradient to add these, okay? If you don't want one, if you add one by mistake, you can just, well, you can do the trash can, but I'm used to just doing this. You know, just click and drag out. That's a very easy way versus coming over here and clicking on the trash can, okay? To me, it seems like an extra step. Anyway, let me go over here, and now we've added another one, and we're going to click on this color, all right? And then I'm going to go and add another slider here, use my eyedropper, and we'll click this much lighter green here. And the other thing, too, is what we'll do is we'll slide this midpoint. I'm trying to get to it up here. There we go. And slide it over so that that green's a little sharper. There we go. And if we need to, we can try to add another little slider in between there that's darker. And then I'm going to slide this midpoint, have to get to it, over so we get our plate. So I've got a fairly interesting looking plate here. And what I would like to do here is, I would like to distort this thing because we could distort it. Let me see here. So I could distort it. And I'm just distorting the shape using the main selection tool here. And we can move it into place. And try to get it there. And if we need to, we can do Command Y to see. And what's really interesting, I think, is, this is a photograph I had taken with my iPhone. And it's a plate that's perfectly circular and everything. But notice that this circle, I'd have to distort it more. And I'm not going to. But this is what happens in photography, this distortion. And some things happen like that. And you got to ask yourself, do you want to comply with that distortion? Do you want to adjust this so it fits it, or do we really need the distortion? And in some cases we want to avoid the distortion. So in this case, I'm just going to totally ignore it and continue on. Now, let's still go back Command Y here. Now this is not in perspective because these colors here, they go back a little bit further here, and they're bigger. Okay, this area looks bigger. This area should look smaller. So there is an issue at hand, and the only way I could solve this is to turn this into gradient mesh, and that's something you can actually do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Object, Expand. Okay, under the Expand options, you can expand gradient to gradient mesh. And this was something I learned a long time ago in one of the books on, how to use Adobe Illustrator. It was the most helpful thing I've seen in there. Okay, so let me see if this is what it is. Okay, yeah, it did turn it to gradient mesh. And you know what? It kind of kept it too, which is interesting. So one of the things because last time when I did this, it did something really crazy, and I will actually show you what it did, because I actually have the file here. So let me go back to this one here. I want to make sure here that we've got, this one I don't need. Apologize, don't save that. All right, so over here, let me go to, turn all that off. This was what I had done before, and I just kept a copy of it just in case. And let me go to Expand here, and Gradient Mesh, and click OK, and it did this. It's hard to predict what's going to happen sometimes, okay? But what's happened here is actually when it created the gradient mesh, it also creates a clipping mask that goes around it. And we talked about clipping mask before by using Draw Inside and by showing you about this right here. Well, if we go down, we can release this clipping mask and delete it. Okay? Whoops. We don't want to delete that. We just want to delete the clipping mask. And we may need to ungroup it. All right, so I'll do Shift Command G and see if I can get to just the clipping mask. Yep. And ungroup it. And then that's what I had. So let's go over to this one. This one is probably got a clipping mask on it too, and may be doing something much larger. Clipping mask can get in the way. So I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to do clipping mask release and see what we got here. Whoa! Well, that has it all the way up there like that. That's interesting. Okay, you just never know what's going to do. I'm getting rid of this clipping mask because I'm going to have to go in here and move things around a bit. I'm going to move. We might as well just move things like this. I'm just moving this point up closer here. And if I need to, I'll zoom in. So this was unexpected. It really was. I was not expecting it to do this. I was expecting it to do the other thing. but you just never know sometimes. And, you just got to know how to work with things. Now, the reason we have to get rid of that clipping mask is because we're going to add some new points, especially around the edge, and that clipping mask really gets in the way. Bring this down to here. Tuck this in. Now, we can do Command Y. Oops, I did something else. We can do Command Y. That was Command T I hit. And we can see where we need to kind of manipulate things here. Okay, and we'll bring that in a little closer there. There we go. Okay, on this side, it's going to give us a little harder trouble here because something has occurred. And once I release the clipping mask, this becomes obvious if you ever start moving points. Now, I don't know why it chose this side, but what I'm going to do is this. Is that when I first had done this, and I'm going to just pull this out here. Oh, there's my clipping mask. That's a elliptical shape that has no fill and no stroke. That's our clipping mask. So I'm going to hit delete and delete that, okay? Because we don't need it. And like I said, it's kind of good to get rid of. But what I would not advise you to do this. You don't need to do it, but I was doing this a long time ago to see what in the world has gone on here when it created this, turned this gradient into this. And after a while, I pulled out all these things. And we'll just zoom out here for just a second here. And what it has done, and it's an unusual thing that has done here. Let me see if I can get to this one. It is tricky. What it has done, if we can move out all these points, and like I said, I would not advise you to do this. I'm just doing this to show you. And we'll zoom out here. I'm going to turn off my template here for a second. We'll do Command Y so we can see what we do. It has generated a gradient mesh and has actually twisted it around. It has done a gradient mesh. If we could pull all these points out, you would see, a gradient mesh that goes from this light color to this darker color, and imagine it as like a rectangle, okay? That's what it has done. It has really bent itself around, and I've moving these things didn't help. So I'm going to undo all this. Now, the reason why I wanted to show you that is so that you're aware of it. Because in this instance, what I want to do is, and there is a clipping mask I want to get rid of eventually. That's it right there. Is anytime we're going to move any of these points, it's essential to use the direct selection tool and to drag over them because these points are stacked on top of each other. And these points need to be kind of pulled in like this. And then we'll do Command Y so we can see how far we need to get in there. Okay. And anytime we're going to move any points, we're going to need to do this. And then I'm going to pull this up to get this curvature here. We'll tuck this in just a little bit here. And then we'll tuck this in here. Oops. And then we got to tuck this here. And up here, yeah, we got a couple of overlapping ones. I'm going to pull that out for just a second here. Let's see what we've got here. Yeah, you got these overlapping things here. And I'm just trying to untangle it the best I can. Oh, that. All right. And you may not have to deal with this. But what I'm doing is I'm getting all these handles. Remember, we don't want to cross handles unless we want a really sharp edge for something. We may need that. But what I'm doing is I'm just moving everything And then we'll move it all back down. We'll take a peek at what we've got here in just a second, because we're going to have to do some distorting here. And we've got to get this as close as possible. All right, remember our plate was, the photograph was a little distorted. It was not perfectly elliptical. All right, now, let's go to Command Y and see, okay, everything's okay except this right here. And I need to get this. I got a little too happy there. Oops. Both of these. There we go. Remember, you got to drag over both of them. We just want to drag that out there so it has a nice. Now let's zoom out. Okay, now, in order to make this look like it's in perspective, we're going to need to move these points. And it's easier to move these points along here because of just the fact that they're one point. There's not this overlapping thing going on. So I'm going to move these back here. If it helps, we can do it in outline mode so we can kind of see how far back some of this stuff needs to go. Deselect, and then I can just drag over both of these and push this back more. Okay. And same thing goes again, and we'll preview it in a minute. A lot of this is going to be hidden behind this pepper. We'll do Command Y. Not bad, not bad. Okay, so now, and this is the tough part here, is like these points, we're going to move back here like that. Okay, and let's do Command Y just to see if it's distorted anything terribly. Okay, it's just some distortion. And I'm trying to figure out which way that is curving that, because we'll do Command Z, do Command Y, just take a peek here. Boy, sometimes it really just kinks up there. And this is a terrible kink here that I'm trying to undo, if possible. I don't know if I can. I might just need to leave that. Okay, so that's there. Oh, I see. So I had another point right there. We'll move that point in. This there was 2 points right on top of each other. All right, so let me just manipulate this for just a second here. I'm going to move this out of the way so I can kind of see what is going on here. All right, so that one does that. This one may be the one that needs to be on the outside. We'll just move that in there like that. Move this here. Tuck this in around a little bit more. And it's all getting used to using these handles. And anytime I make a real bad mistake, I just kind of undo it immediately. That's why I'm always zooming out here and doing Command Y to see the distortion. Okay, it's getting there. It's getting there. Let's do Command Y again. And this time over here, I'm going to start moving some of these. Move that one out to here. And that's the lighter, that kind of yellowish beige color. All right, we'll move this one up here. And we'll move this, whoops. Moving the handle and not moving that. Okay. And we'll move this here. Now these highlights, we're going to make those separately. So let's zoom out here, see what we got. Command Y. And you see that begins to show the plate in perspective. Okay? Now let's do Command Y again. And this time we're going to have to do some adjusting to these. And the best way to do that is just to overlap. You know, I'm using the direct selection tool. I'm getting all these at once. And maybe even this one too, if it will let me. Yeah. I'm not going to use that one. Not unless I overlap like that. Let's see what it does. Okay, not bad, not bad, not bad. Tuck this in a little more. that in a little bit more. There we go. You just gotta remember, it's like two of these. They're folded up on each other. So now let's pull this over here. And one of the terrible things that's happening is overlapping handles. So best way to get to both handles is, whoa, there we go. All right. And let's do Command Y to see if we have any holes. Just a little bit of a hole there. So I'm going to just move. Whoops. Maybe. And we could just. See, that opens it. I'm going to pull that down so it overlaps. Okay. So we'll see what if we run into a big problem with that later. But now what we need to do is Command Y. Now I still need to move these things. So I'm going to move these things all up like this. And see, that makes it look like it goes in perspective if everything worked out right. We'll find out in just a second here. Let me grab that point. Oops, I keep getting that handle. I'm just going to click and drag over so I don't get that handle because there's actually 2 points on this, by the way. Yeah, and that's something we just don't want to deal with. So if these 2 points are on top of each other, that's why it's good to be in outline mode and you just pull them together. And now let's do Command Y and take a peek, and it's not bad. There is some issues over here I'm going to work with. If I can, if this is something that's fixable. Okay. There we go. And there's a little hole there. Overlap. Just got to zoom in here. All right, I just overlapped that one because one's on top of the other. It's like peeling back a carpet or a curtain there. It's funny. All right, now let's see the gradient goes much better. Shot here. And I've just been dealing with this stuff so much. You know, it takes some time to get used to. It takes some time to kind of fix all your issues here. And you may not run into the issues I'm having. All right, so that looks much better. And that looks a lot more like the plate. And we can make some subtle changes here. One thing I'm thinking of doing is do Command Y, and we're going to move this. We have to select both of them here, and we'll just tuck that in a little bit more. Command Y. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. That looks nice. You know, that really looks sharp. And so now I think we're okay for the moment. And if we need to move anything else, we can. You know, like if I want to move this a little closer here, we can do that. So anyway, let me do Command Y. Oh, I keep doing Command T. Command Y there. And there's, you know, if we want to, we can move this up a little bit more so it coincides with the curvature there. There we do. And every time I do this, I'm going to go back and forth so I see if it looks right. Okay? Because I'm thinking it'd be best to move this up into this a little bit more. And then we've got kind of a handle that's sticking out, which is okay. But what I'm thinking of doing, Command Y, is I don't want that green coming over that far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this just a little bit more. That's fine over there, the one I was playing with. Is let's get our gradient mesh tool and add another point in here. And And that point, do Command Y, we will make this darker blue color, okay? Like that. And so this one right here, we can pull it a little bit more. You get that. And let's do Command Y so we can see what the curvature is doing. Nope, I did the wrong one. So pull that out like that. Yeah, this right here, Command Y, needs to be this darker blue. There we go. Okay, now there's a lighter blue in there. These highlights we're going to make separately. But there is a lighter blue. We'll do U and add a point here. U, remember, is the keyboard shortcut for gradient mesh. And we're just going to come over here and pick out this kind of lighter color. Yeah, I think I had better. There we go. That looks nice. And it's a little hard edged because there's probably a handle overlapping. And we don't want that. I can always manipulate this. That looks a lot better. Yeah, I can probably live with something like that. And if we want to, let's come over here and let's see, this one right here is what we want. We'll just click this color here just to kind of continue that blue around. All right, now, so that looks like a nice plate. All right, I'm just looking at it back and forth. There's other things we can do with it. One thing that we can do, and we'll go to our outline mode again. So hold down the Command key, click on that eye on the layer palette, is these highlights. Now these highlights, we're just going to draw them. And we're just going to put a color, and we'll just, what we're going to do is we will just use a Gaussian blur on them, because we're not going to waste the time trying to get the gradient like this. Okay? And what I think I might do, in the original one when I did this, I just used a color I picked off, but I'm almost thinking it might be good to make a gradient in there, a radial gradient, and then do a Gaussian blur on it. So let's select these shapes. They're all going to be the same color no matter what we do with them. All right, so let's zoom out just a little bit, do Command Y, and first we'll click this white here. And what I'm thinking of doing is we will do a gradient. We'll do a radial gradient. Inside can be that. Just double click. I mean, not double click. Get the eyedropper off of the gradient. So we've got two of these. I don't mind that being white, but if you want to make sure what color this is, there you go. Now I'm going to go to the black, use my eyedropper, and we're going to choose this lighter color. It's not lighter than that, but basically, if we take a look, we want to deselect these. So we got gradients kind of like that. Now let's take these and let's do a Gaussian blur on them. So let's do blur. Let's do blur. Well, actually, we have Gaussian blur up here because I was doing this before. All right. So now we just want to up the Gaussian blur a little bit. And then we get something like that. And if we need to, we can always manipulate that a little bit more. All three of them don't have to have the same blur, because I think when I was originally doing this, I was actually doing different blurs. So I'm going to undo this for a moment. And I'm going to pick this. I'm going to get my dark selection tool. We'll select that one and then just apply Gaussian blur. That looks really nice. This one, let's go and do Gaussian blur and maybe make it just a little bit less. There we go. Yeah. So the smaller these shapes are, if the blur is large on them, it's going to cut into some of the highlight there, and it's not going to look so much like the highlight. So that's why I decided to do this. so that I can get something that looks a little bit more photographic like that. That's not bad, okay? Now, I can work on that more, but what I want to do next is actually start working on the pepper. So let's continue on here, and we will actually just make a new layer. So, and we'll just lock this layer, and we'll actually turn off the layer so that we don't see it. And what we're going to do is just, kind of trace around this pepper. Now, you could make this pepper with, gradient mesh. There's tutorials online about how to do that. But I started working on this thing. I thought, I'm just going to just do draw inside and make all these shapes. You saw the effects. It looks great. I might have been able to do something with that method of building shapes to build the plate, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's just a matter of trying it. I just didn't try it. But I wanted to show you about turning a shape into gradient mesh. Now we'll go to outline mode so we can see here. And if we want to, we can zoom in closer. And we can work on the path before we get farther along here. Okay, that looks nice. That looks nice. So I'm so picky here. I've already done a nice job on the other one. But it's good to know about editing. Now what I need to do is I need to get my pen tool and click on that last point. Because when I use my magnifying glass there, my zoom tool, it actually deselected. And if I would have continued on, I would have made a new path. And that's something that happens sometimes. I'm going to cut straight through as if the stem will overlap it. Just curve that a little bit, okay? And then we're going to start off with a color. And let's do Command Y so we can see. And we'll just pick a medium red. Nothing too dark, nothing too light. So that's, I think, a little too dark. Okay. Let me see. Eyedropper. And maybe like that. Okay. All right. Now, let's hold down our Command key, click on the eye. And we're going to need to make a bigger shape that's going to be darker with the Gaussian blur. And this time we need to go in and do the draw inside. So right now my toolbar is all the way over here. I'm going to bring it in a little bit more. And sometimes I have my toolbar like this, and when it does, you can see the draw inside more mode option easier versus this. And you just got to go through there and click on that, and it'll be on draw normal and go to draw on inside, and it'll create that dotted line. And by the way, when I was creating this, I had some issues, and eventually I did two or three shapes. Next thing I know, I was outside the draw inside mode, and I was having to do, as I showed with the chili pepper, about going back and getting into. I'll just kind of maybe, because we're going to make some other shapes over there. But I had to do that cutting and pasting in front of, and it works. It works very good. It's just, it'd be nice to just stay in the draw inside mode, not be kicked out of it unwillingly. Okay. And I will blame Adobe for that. It amazes me that all these upgrades they do to their system, they don't fix the crucial things. Okay, so let's go to preview mode. And let's get an eyedropper and click on a darker color over here. And that's much darker. See, that's good. I like that. And then we're going to do Effect and Gaussian Blur. And we are going to put a blur on this. And it's already got a little bit of a blur, but we're going to really up that considerably. Something like that, perhaps. All right. begins to look a little bit more like that. Now, if I want to, let me do another shape here. Looking around here. And, well, actually, you know what? I'm going to go to outline mode. And one of the issues I was having is that this red up here and this red up here they're two slightly different reds. One was much darker, and so I was really having to play with the value. I think I'm out of the draw inside mode already. I am. Huh. Well, hallelujah. Sorry about that, but yes, I am outside of it. And how I got outside of it, I'd have to watch the video to see, because it's a mystery to me. But what I'm going to do is, now that I'm outside of that draw inside mode, we're going to cut this shape, Command X. We're going to select this shape. We're going to need the direct selection tool enabled to select it. And then we're going to do paste in back. And so that's going to be a slightly different color. If we want to, and I'm looking at this, because there's going to be some different colors in here and everything. I'm wondering, because I didn't do this last time, maybe we'll put a radial gradient in. Radial gradients can come in handy for a lot of things. So let's go along here and we'll zoom out and we'll pick the darker color. Use the eyedropper and pick a color somewhere up in here. Okay, and then we're going to pick this color and we're going to pick a color down in there. Just want a variation. And actually, I think the outside color may be our lightest. So we'll try to get one a little darker, one a little lighter. Not by much. And we're going to drag this gradient up in here. And we're going to pinch it so it's more like that. Drag that there. Yeah, I love the fact that you can make your radial gradient, instead of circular, you can make it elliptical. And let me just see if we can get something. Well, we'll just click this. There it is. I'm wondering here. Well, no. I think that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. It's got that. It's funny, but so that's the lighter. Okay. All right. So this darker color is fine. This lighter color, I'd like it a step lighter. Come over here. I might even click up here to see. Ooh, that's kind of neat. All right. So that looks nice. So anyway, let me continue on here. Command Y here. And remember, all of our shapes are outside now. So anytime we're doing a shape, we're going to do a shape here. I'm thinking of, this is kind of pale right here. Always up to interpretation. I'm trying to see what I can make. I like to make this as realistic as possible. Okay, let's do Command Y. And we're going to click the eyedropper and get this kind of color right here. There we go. Now, I'm going to do a Gaussian blur, and we'll see what this thing looks like. I'm actually going to drag the black out. I want it a little bit lighter, if possible. So sometimes you're going to need to change things. And I would recommend working at CMYK simply because you've got black and you've got cyan and magenta and yellow, and you could very easily alter these with CMYK. But, you know, if something's too dark, you just drag the black down. Okay, so let's go to Gaussian Blur. Let's see what we get here. Not bad. We might want to make it a little smaller. Okay, we'll click OK. And then what we're going to do is, since we got outside of the draw inside mode, we're going to do Command X and then click one of our shapes in here. We'll get that one. And we'll just do paste in front and see what it looks like here. Not bad. The other thing we could always do too is, and I didn't talk about this before, but you can always lower your transparency on something. And you can also use one of these modes here. You know, you can always, I put it on the screen. Maybe we'll do overlay, you know, just to play around with it. But you can always go in here, and I'm gonna try overlay at 100% to see what it looks like. Not bad, not bad at all. So that's kind of nice. Okay. And that. Click in between here. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so getting a little closer to what it looks like. And there is this little indentation here. And I was noticing it when I was tracing this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Command key, and then I'm going to just click up, go back to outline mode here. Okay. And then I'm going to just make a shape. Go back to preview mode. We'll click on this color, and then we'll do Gaussian Blur. And that's too high because it's disappearing, so we want something not quite so high. So we now get something kind of like that, which is kind of like what's going on there. Okay. Now let's go back to outline mode and look. It almost looks like there's a lighter color coming through here. So, you know, we could always just trace out. Go down here. Down here. Go outside. There's a couple of lighter colors here. Let's go to preview mode. Of course, that's way too dark. We'll actually click what was lighter there. And we'll go over here. See, I'm afraid that this area still is pretty dark, but maybe I can click this or something. All right, that's not bad. And we can always change its color. And again, let's do, before I even put the Gaussian blur on there, I'm going to cut it, Command X, select, I have to use my direct selection tool. And we'll do paste in front, and so it actually gets it behind the clipping mask there. And then we can do Gaussian blur on this, and we'll up it a little bit more here. And then we'll zoom out and see, and it's not bad. See, it's getting a little closer to what's there. And you know, a lot of this is kind of up to interpretation too, to some extent, because some of these things are so blurry, and so there is a lot of artistic interpretation in trying to make something look real. And I'm going to just take this. Before I had done two shapes, or one shape. I'm going to do two shapes this time. I'm going to do a little shape here. Okay. And I like their color. So we'll do Gaussian blur to each one individually just to see. Okay. Maybe something like that. And then then for this one, we'll go a little higher. Yeah, we almost want to just fade it out of there. So now let's zoom out, and you can see what I've got there. And it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not there yet. This I'm almost wanting to take down. So yeah, you could always do something like that. And that gets much better, okay? Now, let's go up and do our highlights, because it's going to start looking more and more like a pepper by doing these highlights. And I'm just going to be quick about it. I'm going to actually use my pencil tool and my Cintiq so it goes faster. And the thing is, I actually enjoy doing this. It's one of the reasons why, I might get so involved. I could do a very short tutorial, but the problem is I really like doing this stuff. It's kind of fun. A lot of the painting I do now, if you look at my current work, I will make shapes in Illustrator, flat vector shapes, and then export them out to Photoshop, and then I paint in Photoshop. And I like painting in Photoshop. I really do. I mean, there's something fun about doing this. All right, so let's go zoom out here. We've got this shape here. We'll do eyedropper, and we're going to click, not the white, but something very light. Maybe something like that. And then do Command H, because that will hide it. And then we're going to do Gaussian Blur. And not bad. I like that. We'll just leave it like that, okay? And then let's go back to outline mode, and now let's highlight around these highlights, the bright highlights, okay? So I'm going to do something kind of like this. And I've got my Cintiq. And sometimes the problem with doing the Cintiq is you can't see when your hand's in the way. So I'm going to kind of do this. But sometimes I prefer just using my Wacom tablet. Therefore, I don't run into, oops, something happened there. Redraw over it. I'm going to take this up into here. It's all up into interpretation. If we make a mistake, we could always undo or just correct the shape. All right, and these are the brighter areas. Yeah, maybe we do something like that. Okay, now let's do Command Y. We're going to find these things because we just put them there. And by the way, I got Command H on, so that's why. All right. If I have to do Command Y, just see, yep, I'm missing one. And it's this one right here. So these shapes are floating on the inside, meaning they don't touch the edge. So I don't have to do this cut and find a shape and paste it in front of, because these shapes just simply sit on top. And we'll pick the lighter color. We'll do Command H again. A lot of times when I hide those vector points, I forget that, and then I can't see. Whoa, too much. I'm thinking about making some of them a little sharper and some a little bit blurrier, okay? So what I'm going to do is, I'm realizing now I want this one, and we'll just change the Gaussian blur of this one, and up it more. Whoops. Command H. What's going? Oh, they're all selected. Okay. So deselect. Go to this one. Go to my Gaussian blur. I could do Command H. Oh, I can't. That's right. Once I'm in Gaussian blur mode, it won't let me. But we'll up the Gaussian blur a little bit more, and it becomes much more faded. Now the other thing too is we could always lower the transparency a little bit. Something like that. I didn't even do that with the other one I had created. I kind of like that. Okay. So that looks really nice. And now we're just going to continue on. This won't take too long. I think what would really help is doing a shadow up underneath, and we will do that in just a moment. But let's continue creating shapes, and I'm going to do a shape like this. We'll draw another shape too. And again, a big issue is I can't see because I'm drawing on top of my Cintiq, so sometimes you just can't see if you're drawing in the right direction when you're tracing over something. All right, so there we go. Now do Command Y, and we got two shapes here. This one, we'll just take this one first, and the last one we made. And we'll come over here and try to find a light color, and then do Command H, and then do Gaussian Blur. And we don't want up too much there, just maybe something more like that. Okay. This, we're going to do a gradient in it. So that one, let's do get out of Command. There we go. I just want to make sure I've got that selected. So I had to undo, had to hit Command H again. So let me go, and we're going to do a gradient. And that gradient is going to have this color in it. So let's just click on the gradient, and we're going to pick the center here. Whoops. Get the eyedropper and click that. And then we're going to click this outer part here, and we're going to click this color that we had just made. Okay? Now let's zoom in here, and we'll adjust the gradient. And I don't know, I'm going to try to pull it up. Yeah, pull it out a little bit here. Move it. And that rotates it. This distorts it. Or maybe this distorts. There we go. So I want to do kind of a radial gradient that's distorted, kind of elliptical, so that has that there. And if we want to, we can always change the color of it, but what I want to do is we'll zoom out a little bit, do Command H, and put a Gaussian blur on it. And that might be a little too much. You get kind of a nice highlight like that. And like I said, you know, maybe I might change this outer color on this gradient. So this color, use the eyedropper, and we'll pick this. Kind of like that. The other thing too is I'm going to bring that in there a little tighter. Bring this over a little bit. And let's just see. Oh goodness, that's nice. That's nice. That starts to behave like that. It's a little large. If we need to, we can shrink it. And do Command Y. Yeah, we'll just shrink it a little bit. There we go. Now let's continue on. We're going to do this. And I've switched back to my pen tool. And I really think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do two different, because that kind of fades there. And there's some more detail I can get down in there. I don't know how much of this I'm going to complete, but I think this may come out better than the one I had shown you at the beginning of the video. So let's pull that there, and we'll do Command Y, so we can see we got a gradient in there. That's kind of nice. I like that radial gradient in there. I think it actually works very well. And let's zoom out here, see color-wise. Good, that looks nice. Okay, so now we'll just, if it's too dark, we can also lower the opacity there, and I'm going to up this just a little bit more. The Gaussian blur, there we go. And then it needs to be cut, so I'm going to cut it, select it with the main selection tool, Command X. Then I have to go get the other selection tool, and I'm just going to select one of these shapes here, I got that one there. I can do paste in front. Uh-oh, that one's floating. Remember, anything that's on the edge, I didn't have to cut there. So let me get, if I can get to this one. There we go. All right. Paste in front. Very good. Much better. Crops that right off that. All right. Now, and we might want to even change. I like this one, but I'm wondering about changing the color there. Ooh, that's too bright. I'm wondering about changing its overall color. Yeah, I like that better. You can always make changes to your colors, okay? And down here, and there's more and more highlight stuff, or reflective light in this case. Just draw this out here. Hopefully I won't get too confused by all the shapes I made. Alright, and we'll get maybe this color. Okay. That color has transparency, so we'll transparency off and raise it all the way up. And then we'll cut it, Command X. Oops, got to use the direct selection tool or the group selection tool. And then do paste in front so it's inside that. And then let's go to Gaussian Blur again. And up it a little bit. Okay, there we go. Boy, that's turning out nice. Alright, so I'm going to do as much as I can here. And then make the stem. The stem won't take long. It's got very few things to do here. But like I said, part of my problem in doing this stuff is I actually enjoy the work and seeing something being brought to life. It's really kind of a nice thing to have happen, to where you can actually see your progress. And that's one of the reasons why I love making art. It's just like you can see the progress as you're making it. Alright, so we'll get this color here. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but let's cut it. We'll do Command X. We'll get A as our direct selection tool, do paste in front so that's back there. And then we will do Gaussian Blur, and not bad, not bad, not bad. Zoom out. It's always good to zoom out to see, like, is this too bright? I can live with that. I can live with that. All right, and see this, if I would have made this with gradient mesh, it would have worked. Some of the problems with gradient mesh is it can take a long time to set up, but then once you get everything set up, you start selecting your points and then putting your color in, and then you're done. This is a little different. That's why it's good to know how to do both, because they both get good results. The one thing I will warn you about, and that is gradient mesh actually takes up very little space, file space. If you look at your file of a gradient mesh object, it's very small compared to an object that has lots of Gaussian blurs on it. Okay, because Gaussian blurs rely upon effects, and effects, they're raster based. Anything that's raster based is going to really add the detail. It's going to add the memory. It's going to need more file size because it's based upon pixels. Okay, I'm just trying to adjust this here. So that's something to contend with when you're working with this stuff. And if you've got a slower computer, you may want to just stick to using a lot more gradient mesh for your projects than using, that looks nice, than using Gaussian blurs. I think I'm almost done with there's some other things I could do, but I want to do this side, and then we'll do the stem and the shadow, and we'll be done. And you can always fast forward. That's one great thing about video. always fast forward to see where this has gone. And I'm not much into making those speed painting types of videos because they don't really teach you anything. It's nice to see the progress, but it just goes so fast. You don't know what tools they've used. You don't know the process. It just, to me, it's just showing off, And I love to show people how to do things. It's one of the reasons why I love to teach. And let me go over here, all the way over here. Click this color. That thing looks much whiter like that. But let's go and do and we're going to have to cut this. So let's cut this. Command X, A, and then we're going to do paste in front. And see, it gets cropped. And then we'll do Gaussian Blur. And put that just a little bit more there. I think that's nice. Whoa. Wow. That really began to look like a photograph there. All right, so time for the stem. And the stem is just a shape. I'll use my pen tool. And it's just a hard edge shape that we'll use the draw inside method for. And hopefully I won't get kicked out of it so quickly. But if I do, it's just a matter of cutting and pasting in front of the shapes that are in there already or in back of. And I must admit, I've gotten used to the draw inside method. Because for a while there, I was hesitant about showing my students how to use it because of the fact that you get kicked out of it. And usually when I would make something that needed a clipping mask, I would just build it all and then put the clipping and then copy the bottom shape and then paste that in front of everything and then select everything and then create a clipping mask and it's effective, but it's kind of nice to see it as it's going along here. It's kind of nice to see it clipped. All right, now zoom out, and we need to pick a medium green off this. Something about like that. All right, and now let's do the draw inside. Okay, we'll go to outline mode and try not to turn that layer off because that will kick us out of there. That might have been what happened last time. I am going to start off with this kind of, looks like a little groove there, a little indentation. So I'm just going to make a shape like that. And we'll zoom in just a little bit more. Oh, zoomed in too much. I just want to zoom in here to see what the shape was I made. Yeah, so it's kind of crossing there. All right, so yeah, we'll do that. Nope, that's actually the wrong way. Do it that way. Pull that there. And then pull this up a little bit more. So instead of making a lighter color, I'm making this darker color because whatever the existing color is behind that is going to show through, and then we'll make another darker shape. And so let me come out here, and we'll pick a darker color shape here. I mean, darker color. We'll make sure that's dark enough. We'll put a Gaussian blur on that afterwards, because I'm just going to go ahead and do this one. And we're still in the draw inside mode because of that dotted line thing. So that's good. There we go. Now let's go to preview mode. Yeah, there we go. That looks nice. All right, and then I'm going to make another, because it looks, there's all these little fluted, like on a column, they call them flutes, you know, columns that hold up buildings. In art history, you should have learned about, Ionic, Corinthian, and there was another type of column there, Doric, I believe it was. So that's why I say it looks fluted. It's funny, it's picking up such a lighter color there. I don't know why that is. That is weird. So let's go over here and pick up a color, a lighter color like this. Just swing over here real fast. There we go. That looks nice. Okay. Now let's just apply. Look at direct selection tool, and we'll do Gaussian blur. Well, we'll do Command H, so we can hide that, and then we'll do. Sorry about that. I get a little lost here. A little tired right now, so there's that. I'm going to apply the same one, just see if it's too much. It's a little too much. So if it's a little too much, then we just go. It's good to have your appearance palette open, and we just click on the word, and then just drag this down a little bit. The word Gaussian blur. There we go. This one, we will do Gaussian blur, and just take it way down. We just want a little bit of blur on that. Okay, now we come out here, and we're going to get the pencil tool again. So I trace out a highlight area. We'll trace out a midtone area first. And then we'll trace out our highlight area, okay? So just tracing out a bunch of different shapes here. Oops. And there's something to be said about having a tablet and drawing out shapes with the pencil tool. It gets a lot faster than having to do the pen tool all the time. But I do appreciate the pen tool, especially if I see a nice curve that I go, ooh, that's perfect for the pen tool, I go for the pen tool immediately. All right. We'll just see what these all look like. And this one here, we're still in drawing side, so we can do that. Actually, I'll click on this. Command H. That's the thing, is I always forget that I have hidden that. I just want to change that around. Oh. Okay. And I'm going to just smooth that out just a little bit. Okay, now, Command Y. And let's get all these shapes that I have just made. If it helps, using group selection tool, there's no keyboard shortcut that I know of, because there's not one beside it. So if anybody does know one, just shoot me a line. Send me an email saying, hey, Mr. Roy, this is how you do it. That's how I learn things a lot of times, my students. It's one of the reasons. That's another reason why I love teaching, because you learn from your students. They might know a quicker way of doing something. Okay, let's do Gaussian blur on this. But before we do that, Command H. Command H. And let's do Gaussian blur. We have to up it quite a bit, but here's the problem. I think we need to just do Command H so we get this. We're going to deselect this one. Shift A. I was hoping Shift A would turn that to the group selection tool. All right, so there we go. All right, now do Command H, and I'm going to put Gaussian blur on these small ones. so it's not too much. And then on this one, we're going to put, and do Command H to make sure I got that one. We're going to put a much greater Gaussian blur, so it really blends in there. Okay, now let's go to there and get my, and I'm actually drawing on my Wacom tablet instead of drawing on my Cintiq for this. So I'm not covering up any part of this. So there is something to be said about a Wacom tablet over a Cintiq in that. I know some students, once they go to a Cintiq, they never go back. Command H, just make sure here. Ooh, it looks like I hooked up on that other one by mistake. All right, got to go back here. Sorry about that. Yeah, I've had some students that, they just could not get they felt the disconnect. They just could not understand how to draw with the Wacom tablet. And, as I tell a lot of students, there's a lot of different industries, and some of those industries you can get a full-time job as an illustrator or a graphic designer, and some companies have Wacom tablets, and some companies like gaming companies like Hi-Res, they all have Cintiqs. Okay, so that's why I prefer to teach my students how to use both. All right, now zoom out here. Use the eyedropper. Click on that lighter color. Do Command H and Gaussian blur it. And does that look good or what? That's not bad. That's pretty close there to being finished. So let's turn on my other layer up underneath there. There we go. I could see doing some more things to this, but I'm going to get outside intentionally. This is the first time in a while that I'm intentionally going back to draw to normal. Okay, and if I need to do any more to it, I can do some things. There's some darker shadows in here, and I'm thinking of just kind of maybe just doing a stroke. All right, so I'm going to get my not my pen tool, but my pencil tool. And so for that area right there, I'm just going to draw a line. Let's go to here. Okay. We'll put you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to select this dark color, but then swap the fill and stroke so that's a line. And then I'm going to put a Gaussian blur on a line. It's too high, but we can do it like that. Okay. Because I really try to avoid using strokes. Strokes are like something you define the outer edge with. But in this instance, I think by having these little minor strokes here and putting a Gaussian blur on it, that'd be effective. There you go. When we zoom out, you can begin to see how that's replicating that. And there's more and more things I can do to it. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another layer here for a moment. I'm going to turn off my plate. And I'm just simply going to use my pencil tool and draw out. There's two shapes for this cast shadow. There's a bigger, blurrier shape, and then a smaller, darker shape. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We can perfect it afterwards. Oh, I'm hiding my edges there. Okay. There we go. Let's get that. Then bring this all the way up like this. Oops. Okay. All right. Now, let's go back to preview mode. Oh, I was in preview mode. I have a stroke on that thing. That's why. That's what's throwing me. All right, so we pick this color up here, and then we're going to do Command H, and we might as well show our plate now, and do a Gaussian blur, and really up that thing because there's some chunky stuff in there. And this thing is really blurry like that. See? That's a nice blur. And then, boy, does that make that look a lot more realistic. Then we'll go to outline mode. Let's turn off my plate for a second. And this time I'm going to get my pencil tool and just crease around on the inside here a little bit. There's a darker color. All right. And we'll do Command Y. And then we'll change that color to this. Whoops, eyedropper. There we go. Now let's turn on our plate. And now let's put, I still have this thing selected. I just have Command H where I'm hiding the line. I'm going to go and do Gaussian Blur and see. Yeah, we'll make it a little bit less. Something like that. Okay. And then I'm going to turn off my, and boy, look at that. That really looks nice. Okay. That is not a bad job. Now, there's a little bit more things I did to the plate before, and there's still things I could do to the plate. One thing I did do, which you can do, is I thought that the pepper was a little too small. So, you know, once you get done with the whole thing, you know, if you select the pepper, you can make the pepper bigger or make the plate smaller, you know. And see, to me, that looks better. Or, I'll go back here. We'll get the plate. Make it smaller. Oh, yeah, the plate. One last thing. The plate has I mean, there's some things I could do to it, but the plate is casting a shadow. So that's easy. We'll just make an ellipse. Send it back. Shift, Command, left bracket. Pick out this color with my eyedropper. Okay. Do a big Gaussian blur on this. And that's going to make it look much better, okay? Now let's turn that off. Oh, that looks really nice. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to take and select both of those and just shrink them a little bit. Move it up so it makes my pepper look much larger. And I think that looks nicer like that, okay? And so this is going to be our third exercise, and I hope this helps you. Hope it doesn't confuse you, and you should be pretty good with both the mesh and drawing inside and the Gaussian blurs after this. Anyway, I'm going to end this video now.